Hello guys, happy 2026. Gonna be golden, especially with the cloud. As you can tell, I'm wearing my golden vest for the new year and also K-pop Demon Hunter's golden background. Before we get to the cloud and also IPv6 to kick off Coding Missions Season 2, I have some special gift from my GF and also from the Korean store H Mart. Shin Ramen for Rumi, Shin Ramen for Zoey, and last but not least, Shin Ramen for Mira. So just like the beautiful tasting Shin Ramen, which is a great throwback to my BU Northeastern school years, I also really enjoy tasting different types of cloud. And me being a bit of a cert, Honmoon holder, I guess, I basically continue to learn more and more about cloud. And even here at KPMG, I now know about cloud in terms of AML. So next episode we'll be talking about how to take down Rumi. Dun, 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 take down. Dun, 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 dun. You know that song. Take down Rumi via ACH AML. But tonight we're just gonna be dun 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 dun. Be golden, which is a great way to start off the premiere. Without further ado, here's the episode. As you can tell, I have the coding missions episode. And to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to switch it down here instead to screen share. So the episode is, of course, the three main clouds that I've been talking about, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. There's a triple cloud Honmoon, and also important for networking and even for AML purposes, regards to switching network between client. You also got A and quadruple A IP switch. Of course, this episode is sponsored by K-pop Demon Hunters, great show on Netflix, and also is one of the biggest raves in Korean K-pop history. So which one will steal the Honmoon? Azure, AWS, or GCP? If you like the episode, like for Azure, subscribe for AWS, or if you're familiar with Google Cloud, comment for GCP. So round one, we have service comparison. As you can see, a lot of these cloud applications are basically run by three main components: servers, PaaS, platform as a service, service computing, Docker management, and storage. So basically it's storage, service, and computing. That's basically it. And maybe a couple others of data and networking. So I tell you right now, the most important parts of the cloud for AWS is understanding these three: ECS, Elastic Cloud Service, EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Service, and of course the good old S3 for storage. All the other stuff is more, like usual, daily life type of deal. For example, CloudFront you use for showing off the website for K-pop Demon Hunters. Lambda we do service computing to get some tickets for, the Stray Kid concerts, and instance is just run an instance. For Google Cloud, I'm a bit more of a newbie on this one, a bit like how Rumi was trying to sing Golden, but her demon pattern showed up. So I do have to admit I'm the newbiest at the Google Cloud. But don't worry, this is where the beauty of ChatGPT comes in, ladies and gentlemen. So for first time ever in my YouTube channel, I'm using ChatGPT. I'm using AI for help. The one and only thing that actually can be a little bit more effective in understanding technical terms than my girlfriend. Hey, ChatGPT, what's the main usage of VM instances for a Google Cloud provider? And then they say that you basically need full control over virtual machines and flexible computing power. So you have three main usages of it. You can run applications and websites. You can scale computable workloads. and can develop and test environments. So that's it for the Google Cloud. And also there's Cloud CDN, Content Delivery Network, and something called BigQuery, which you can basically query a big database. There's something really cool called CodeLine. It sounds like Google really likes some cool names, huh? And then this interesting ZFS, Z file storage, and Avir, which is an interesting new thing. And finally, last but not least, my old, true, and blue Azure. Good old Azure has VMs, services, Azure functions, which will help actually a lot with the very basic coding. Container services, Kubernetes service, block, blob, archive storage, Azure files, which is heavily tested by AZ-104 cert. Delivery network also heavily tested, and of course the good old SQL warehouse. So these certifications are going to be a lot more useful once you actually use them in the workplace and not just only, memorize stuff for a piece of paper. Just like the Honmoon can't be sealed without Rumi, Zoey, and Mira all working together. We can't seal our own personal cloud Honmoon without understanding all three. So the age-old questions, what are ad certifications, subreddits, WeChat, social media, and even YouTube comments always have a little bit of a demon fight over. Which cert is most impactful in a job market? And the answer is going to be it depends. So, courtesy of Wiz Labs, here is the general understanding. So, it's like the old meme of, lawful evil, chaotic neutral, and lawful good. The old meme about that is similar to here. You have AWS, Azure, and GCP. So, entry-level certs, I have all three now. I am basically at least, let's say entry-level Honmoon sealed. Technically speaking, because GCP already was covered by Northeastern, essentially, for my co-op and also for my master thesis. Azure already got my AZ900 and AWS, same thing. Or for developer focused, I'm still on the process of getting AWS. I already got AZ 104. Not quite 204 yet, but I'm getting there. And then maybe down the road, if I do become a data engineer, maybe Google Professional Cloud after KPMG. And of course, the advanced certs, I'm probably not going to get that anytime soon until I at least get married with my GF or at least a family. But those are going to be more interesting, DevOps engineer, AZ400, really like, SME, top dog, like the Celine, like the Sunshine Sisters of the cloud. So at the very least, get 2 or 3 certs from the entry level and develop level because of a cloud Honmoon expert. Otherwise, you'd be called a Saja boy paper tiger, which means you'll be exposed when interviews ask you questions about cloud. So don't be a paper tiger Saja boy. Be a Honmoon cloud expert, or at least a cloud subject matter expert. So, of course, like, they're not always going to be friendly with each other. Like Mira and Zoey almost point their weapons at Rumi in the movie. Unfortunately, same thing with Cloud. There's some pros and cons. So as you can see, basically, like Rumi, AWS is the most mature service because it's, Bezos, and honestly, they have this good organization, good infrastructure, not crazy documentation, basically easiest to use in terms of newbies levels. And they just have really, really cool symbols. Like AWS is basically emoji cloud, like young generation, adult, cool looking cloud. Of course, Azure is more like Zoe, the more rambunctious cloud, because Azure gets ridiculous with the cost, it gets extensive product. It really just becomes it's like a really, really complicated system, just like Zoe's way of fighting. And finally, of course, GCP, last but not least, is the best analytics, like Mira. Mira is very analytical. She thinks a lot inside the box. A bit stubborn, and GCP is a bit stubborn as well. Sometimes there's a bit more, strong focus on privacy, data protection, reading the room, KYC, stuff like that for AML, and also for cloud analytics. Be able to just simply have principal of least privilege, do the least amount of stuff to make sure Mira, Zoe, and Rumi don't crash out. So essentially, long story short, AWS has the most mature service, like Rumi over here. Azure is the most extensive products, like Zoe over here. And finally, GCP has the best analytics, like Mira over here. So enough talking about slide deck. Let's actually do some real cloud stuff. So here's a quick golden demo of how AWS, Azure, and GCP all work. And note, I don't want to get broke before the new year already is getting underway. So these are free accounts only. So we're not quite selling the Honmoon entirely, just like the movie, but we'd make it close enough. Make it, a jagged edges type of deal. It's good enough that I don't get broke basically before the new year ends. Because I tell you now, these cloud services get really, really expensive quickly. So here we go. Time to share some more stuff about cloud. Without further ado, I'm going to share this. Exit out of a slide deck and then really get to business with sharing the services. So first up, we have, of course, good old Rumi with AWS. So AWS, I basically got rid of my old BU account, so let me do this. So let's just do Rumi K-pop Demon Hunters, right? So you can verify me. I go to my Gmail. Now remember, this is all PI information, so please don't take this with a grain of salt. They'll be sending back to my AWS console account over here because I already have one for Amazon. And because I already have one for Amazon, I'm gonna have to do the following. I'm going to have to make a new account. So bummer that happens, but it's life. Things happen sometimes. So I'm going to use my old, I guess, more immature email to address the user, and this will be Rumi K-pop Demon Hunter. So long story short, I'm going to have to really use another form of Gmail here. And of course, the beauty of 2026 is OAuth, so you get to use fingerprints. All right, go to my Gmail. It's going to be really cringe, I'm sorry, but this is how we do stuff here, apparently. So you can see I don't really look at a whole lot of my email on anyways these days. So whatevs. So here we go. Verification code for Amazon. Blah, blah, blah. Copy that. Paste over here. I'm good to go. Verify. All right, root user password. I'm making a very simple password, honestly. Uh, let's see. K-pop Demon Hunters 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, K-pop Demon Hunters Golden 1, 2, 3, 4. And then exclamation mark. I copy this again. So I copy this. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm just copy this, paste it here. All right, cool. Continue there. Now, of course, I'm going to do the free plan because, Azure is way too expensive. AWS is way too expensive otherwise. So choose free plan, business, blah, blah, blah. Of course, Florida is my state. That's very simple. I agree to AWS terms of service, personal, continue, billing, blah, blah, blah. Just use what I gotta do. Yeah. So basically, I'm not going to go through the entire step because it is incredibly PII unsafe. But what you want to do in AWS console is the following. Let me give you an example of AWS console that actually has been, taken care of. For example, something like this, for AWS console. You have basically console, you have the region of AWS, and you have your applications. And look at all these sweet little symbols talking about what the sweet catalogs. And that's it for Rumi for AWS. All right, moving on. We got good old Zoey with Azure. This time I actually can build something. So for Azure, I can build the following. I have my own root account. It is my basically my Azure free account, and I've already had the free trial. You can create a resource right now with Azure, and I will create something very simple, a virtual machine, a resource group. So first thing you always create in Azure is a resource group. I add in a sub, which I don't have yet. That's okay. I can add in Zoey, K-pop. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger so people can see what I'm doing here. So the K-pop Demon Hunters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm gonna use a default subscription filter right here for subscriptions. Because I can't quite do that yet, that's okay. That's going to be just part of the process. I just use region tags. I could do following, ramyeon equals delicious. And then more maturely, I could just then choose, for example, hobbies, and that would be hunting demons. So it's really a very good way of trying to like determine what you're going to create. Of course, it's not going to create perfectly for resource group for Azure because I don't have the full sub, but it's just a small demo taste. So you have a resource group name, you have a region, you have some tags and stuff. All right, you can make things even more interesting. You can then add a subscription over here. So you add a subscription. So I'm not going to add subscription from K-pop Demon Hunters. You could do an advanced budget for subscriptions. You could do a budget. I'd say about, I don't know, K-pop Demon Hunters limit. And then amount, I did $100, something like that. Tags, you can add in random tags, review and create, and that's about it for subscription. So that's what we can do for Azure. And finally, Google Cloud, GCP. So you can start free for Google Cloud over here, do a quick demo, do US states, agree and continue. So you notice for all these, I'm not actually showing the whole thing because I'm not trying to actually get any payment card. But that's basically how you would start with Google Cloud. And then of course, to show an example of a Google Cloud, console. I give an example from Google search. It's something like this. So essentially here you have a Google Cloud component, you have quick access, you have the name, you have how much cost it costs with Google Cloud Platform, and also billing account. And then finally the dashboard is quite complicated, just like Mira. It's extremely analytical, it's really, really high tech, not recommended for newbies, as you can tell. Just like Mira is, big, almost like staff-like weapon. Very hard to handle, very hard to kill demons without some serious skills. So you have project info, you have resources, you have a trace apparently, you have APIs, and you have some statuses. So for every single cloud provider, Azure, AWS, or GCP, you have three main components. You got the dashboard, you got the activity, and you got the recommendations. Azure Monitor, AWS Management Console, and the Google Cloud Platform recommendations. And that is it for my cloud demo. So let's actually then go into a new topic, a very mathematical topic that's very important for not just only AML and also for analytics, but for networking as well. And you'll see very quickly why networking is critical to understanding client relationships in terms of transaction data. So I'm going to be jumping right back to what we had before, um, switching between IP and IPv4, IPv6. So here's a great website to help check conversions. I remember this was something I had to do a lot at Dell Technologies, switching between decimal and hex, and even at UHG Optum, switching between decimal hex regards to some server stuff. And even now KPMG is switching between decimal and hex. And it's not something that's very intuitive, so we're going to go over the steps. Just like, Rumi turning into a demon and Jinu, turning into a Guima demon, you first go from good to bad. IPv6 is ugly to look at. It is just a mess. 0, 0, 0, 0, 4 Fs. If anybody got that type of transcript, they'd be failing school already. So horrible, horrible format. Looks pretty disgusting. I also have to worry about bits and also 36 bits we convert. But here's the beautiful stuff. We then finally make it look not like machine language code. We actually make it plain English almost. We then convert the remaining digits to hex, divide by 16, and then correspond each remainder to a hex. So that's how we turn IPv4 to IPv6. Of course, just like then, Junior sacrificed himself near the end of K-pop Demon Hunters and Rumi becoming, you know, shall we say, a color Honmoon, I guess, like, with the jagged edges and demon patterns, but still being good and being herself. We now got IPv6 to IPv4 again. So this one we split the hex into segments. We convert individual hex back to decimal. And for each conversion, we take the rightmost digit up, x up to x minus n. X is 0, where n is the last digit of the 16th power. And here's an example I'm doing. Convert the Azure public address into IPv6. I'll let you guys try this in the comments for a minute, and then I'll give you a solution afterwards. And while we do so, what are chances of the Patriots making it to Super Bowl 2026? And more importantly, how about them Celtics? Despite no Tatum, they're doing very well, and that's impressive. It's like Azure and AWS have both the data centers shut down, but somehow they're still doing the work. Conversely, the Bruins not doing so golden, and well, Red Sox being Red Sox. And yes, I considered making a portioning episode with ramen noodles, but it's not very healthy, and I want to eat healthier. This was my New Year resolution this year, anyways, eat healthier. So it's not going to be a portioning anymore. I will still be making noodles for a future episode, but absolutely not going to be eating ramyun on the episode. There are some YouTubers that made some pretty sweet looking, replicas of the Zoey, Mira, and Rumi noodles. All right, enough about noodles and sports. Let's talk about solution. So the solution is simple. We first convert to this format where the double colon FFFF shorthand. We convert the last 36 bits, which is very simply the class C network 168.63.129.16. And just a quick little aside, guys. I can do it following. I can use ipconfig this network. So I can use ipconfig, uh, whoops, sorry. I can use ipconfig 168 point, what was it again? 63.129.16. Or who am I actually? Who's better? 168.63.129.16. There we go. So these are the results I would get in terms of a command line. So long story short, a command line will be very useful understanding what's going on here. So back to solution, we then do some basic arithmetic. 168 in hex is 168 divided by 16, 10, remainder 8. And then so it's OXA. A is hex. Remember in the previous episodes that we talked about hexadecimal conversions, right? In like season 1 or something. Probably a couple years ago. So 10 in hex is OXA. Then 63 in hex is 63 divided by 16 equals 3 remainder 15. So it's OX3F. Then 129 in hex is 129 divided by 16 equals 8 remainder 1, so it's 0x81. And finally, this is easier. 16 in hex is just simply 0x10. That's easy to remember. So we have final solution of this thingy. F, 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 colon A83F8110 or the really crazy long form. So as homework, you can try the other way around. Convert this right back into the 168.63.129.16. And that's the episode, guys. Like and subscribe. So episode 2, we'll get into more convoluted transactions via AML and try take down Rumi via ACH. Have a good night, guys.